across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. Yes, it's me, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of breaking news, cutting-edge views, and unrivaled debate. Get involved, get on the phone, and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number. And I guarantee I'll play your message out. It's Friday, January the 14th. Oh, it's not January, it's February the 14th. What is that? I've got January written down here. Oh, I'm wishing my life away. It's Friday. I'll start that again. It's Friday, February the 14th, Valentine's Day. Here's what's coming up. Lots and lots of hearts and flowers features on the most romantic day of the year. Oh, wait a minute, I've got a better idea. Let's make tonight a Valentine's-free zone. No lovey-dovey claptrap on this show. You have my word. So, first up, we salute Vice President J.D. Vance for one of the greatest speeches, in my view, ever delivered by an American politician, roasting, cowering European leaders, including Britain's useless Foreign Secretary David Lammy and Defence Sec John Healey for their disgraceful assaults on free speech. Serves that bunch of lefty despots right. God bless America. Can Team Trump rescue us from the oppressive woke tyranny that has turned Europe and the UK into a politically correct nightmare? 0344 499 1000. In other news, all those furious MPs accusing Trump of World War II style appeasement, have they bothered to ask what their constituents think? Is continuing to send billions of taxpayers' pounds to Ukraine really the will of the British people? Are Trump's efforts to strike a compromise peace deal with Putin really such a bad thing? Or do we prefer the grim prospect of millions of young men dying in that grotesque conflict forevermore? Eternal war. Is that what we want? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, back here, the heat is on as pressure grows for beleaguered Chancellor Rachel Reeves to come clean about her dubious past and to clear the air about her career lies. And now, new serious allegations unearthed by the BBC that she was forced to quit the HBOS Bank in an expenses scandal. The noise around her blatant fabrications is getting louder. I should say she denies that she was forced to quit, but as I say, the noise around her blatant fabrications is getting louder. Rachel from Accounts says she's an economist. Well, she's certainly economical with the truth. Can she survive? 0344 499 1000, plus the key trans tribunal in Scotland that the whole world is watching. Will it end in a victory for science and common sense? Or will the lunacy of pretending that trans women are actually women prevail? 0344 499 1000. The latest on the ranting hate preacher whose money-spinning British tour starts next Wednesday. Why is this bile-spewing extremist being allowed into the UK after 29, count them, 29 European countries banned him? 0344 499 1000. And finally, a deep dive into the UK's spiralling migrant crisis with Migration Watch Director Dr. Mike Jones. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday night together. And because it's Friday, my Friday friend is here. He is, of course, political strategist Pete Barnes. Welcome, Pete.
Hi, Kev. How's it going?
All right, mate. Well, by the way, I said it's going to be a Valentine's free zone. Get your calls coming in. I'll make an exception. I don't want any stories about, oh, I love my wife and I gave her some flowers. I'm not interested, not interested. Journalists go crazy about Valentine's Day. I mean, I've been married to my wife for quite a long time. I don't think we've ever celebrated it once. But we won't get into any of that. But if any of you have got stories, because I always believe in accentuating the negative, forget the positive. If any of you have got any stories of the worst Valentine's dates you've ever had, I might be interested in hearing them. We'll give you a run if you can come up with the worst Valentine's dates you've ever had. Apart from that, don't want to know. What I do want to know about, Pete, is this astonishing speech today by the American Vice President in Munich. Now, it's the Security Council over there, basically world leaders from all over the world, but especially Europe, and he stuck it to them, the European leaders. He stuck it to those EU mealy-mouthed little despots and their war on free speech. He said it won't do, and America won't have it. And for all of us who felt so oppressed by this wokery, this tyrannical dictatorship of wokery, it was like the kind of a breath of fresh air. It wasn't a breath of fresh air, it was a gale of fresh air. And you think, man, this is it, this is it. Let's just hope that everything he called on Europe to do, to stop this, to stop these stupid laws, to stop this kind of automatic siding with the other side, with foreigners, with ethnic minorities, you know, against the citizens of these countries, particularly Germany, France, Britain as well. This is what that was all about. Before we get your views on it, Pete, and I know you agree with me, but we've got lots of quotes from him. But here he is basically attacking Britain, but the other European countries as well, for their disgraceful assaults on free speech, and that's especially here. That's especially here. You know, honestly, Starmer, you lot, no more of this. Take it away, Mr. Vance.
I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
I tell you that he is a brilliant man. He is a brilliant man, and you are looking there, ladies and gentlemen, at a future president of the United States, probably the next president of the United States. Man, he stuck it to them.
He did. The Vice President of the United States got up in front of the European military and political leaders and put them very firmly on notice. And I tell you now, the Trump administration is not messing around. They are going to use their economic power to persuade and get Europe to do exactly what is necessary. While whilst, you know, they've fussed over things like reparations and pronouns and all this stuff, 87 million migrants in the last 10 years have made it to the European continent. You know, you've got an increase in terror attacks, an increase in the surveillance state, a crackdown on free speech. This is absolutely abhorrent, and it is about time it was called out. The fact that J.D. Vance didn't tell anybody either that this is what he was going to do.
They thought he was going to do a speech about Ukraine.
Yes, he did.
We'll talk about that in a minute, by the way.
I was going to say, I have a couple of friends...
They were absolutely nonplussed. They didn't realise, but...
Yeah, I'm going to say, I have a couple of friends who work at the UN, and they have gone apoplectic. They've gone mental. This speech has
screw the UN. Here's an idea. Here's an idea. You want to make the world a better place? Disband the United Nations.
I couldn't agree more, but this has sent shockwaves around the world. I mean, this speech will be one of those cultural landmark moments, I think, where we see a real shift. I always said that the re-election of Trump was that, but I think this is the really important bit, because it shows that they're not messing about. This wasn't just words, this was action. This is, like I said, it's putting them on notice, and like with these tariffs and everything else that's coming further down the line, the Trump administration is going to get Europe in order, because our European leaders have just abandoned us. Or even worse, they've abused us. And like you said, Kev, for me, this feels like, after a storm, and there's suddenly fresh air, and everything feels so much better. This is where I think we are now. There's somebody has actually said this out loud, who matters in the world.
I tell you, it reminds me, it doesn't happen often, but occasionally an American president or an American luminary will arrive here and deliver a speech that changes the entire ballpark, changes the game. Remember President Kennedy, JFK, Ich bin ein Berliner, a very important speech that changed the dial for all of Europe. Great speeches of all time in America, of course, the Gettysburg Address. I'm thinking about
I Have a Dream.
I Have a Dream, Martin Luther King. Of course, JFK as well asked not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. These are the great speeches. And these are great men as well. And I think J.D. Vance is a great man. After what I heard today, it took a lot of guts to do that
100%.
Here's another. Here he is attacking Europe. Take it away again, Mr. Vance.
I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief.
Well, that's a message for the Manchester police, who last weekend, if you remember, Pete, arrested and successfully convicted a man for burning the Koran, which in this country should be legal. It should not be against the law. They said that he was guilty of a racially aggravated incident. Where the race was in that, I struggle to believe. I can't see where the racial element was. They just went out of their way to say, thou shalt not offend Muslims. Well, in this country, you can offend Muslims, you can burn the Quran, you can burn the Bible, you can burn the Jewish Torah if you want, because that's called freedom of expression. I wouldn't advise it. Well, it's not my business to advise you. I personally wouldn't get involved in it, and I can see, I'm not encouraging the idea that you go out of your way to offend Muslims or Jewish people or Christians or whatever. But what is important, what is sacrosanct in a free country is if you want to, you should be able to. And we do not want the police and the courts reinterpreting our laws to, in effect, say, you can't burn the Quran, and that's what J.D. Vance is talking about there in Sweden, and that ended up in someone's murder.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, again, it's this kind of putting it in front of their faces to say, look at what you're doing, and I think that is so powerful because like I said, for a long time, we're seeing this slow erosion again and again and again, and it's right across our liberties. But I do also think there's this element of J.D. Vance saying, I'm stood here because you lot failed. I am people that you hate, like Farage and Brexit and Donald Trump, only exist because the mainstream and the establishment have failed to connect with voters, and you've distanced people away. And I think that is a really, really good thing that Vance is also there to try to say, look, you created me. You're Dr. Frankenstein, and I might be the monster.
I'll tell you the way I see it. I'll tell you the way I see it. In a sense, in a different way, Vance and Trump are saying America is hereby the world's policeman. Again, not necessarily militarily, culturally, socially. You know, we are not going to let this woke tyranny consume the entire world. And that was what was so important about what happened today. It really was a sea change moment, if you ask me. There are also great moments of comedy.
There were a couple.
Well, Greta, hope you're listening. This was his take on Greta Thunberg. Basically, what he was talking about was all this sort of hue and cry about Elon Musk getting involved in foreign politics and who the hell is he, and who, just because he's a rich man, why has he got all this influence? You know, he has really upset people, particularly in Britain, but around Europe as well. Well, this is J.D. Vance's response to that.
I believe that dismissing people, dismissing their concerns, or worse yet, shutting down media, shutting down elections, or shutting people out of the political process protects nothing. In fact, it is the most surefire way to destroy democracy. And speaking up and expressing opinions isn't election interference. Even when people express views outside your own country, and even when those people are very influential. And trust me, I say this with all humor, if American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk.
It's brilliant.
It's so
absolutely brilliant. As I say, these guys are saying this used to be the way with America. America, you know, it's a swaggering, massive country, the most powerful, richest country on earth. It used to always be the way. It used to irritate people that they would ride into town and say, we're in charge. And that used to be kind of militarily, economically. I don't think necessarily this is the direction they're going in, but they've obviously decided, you know, that obviously in America, Donald Trump has driven a freight train through wokery there. He's literally cancelled wokery. No more DEI. Literally cancelled it. Well, J.D. Vance is proving if they have their way, they're going to cancel it all over the world, and they have my unequivocal support. As I think I'm going to say right now, God bless America.
Agreed. God bless America, and God bless J.D. Vance, my lord. We needed this. The world needed this more than anything, and it's nice to see America back on the world stage. It really is. You know, under Biden it retreated. Under Obama it was non-existent, and that's basically when the world started to fall apart. You might not like American imperialism or whatever you want to call it, but the world needs a police, and I'd rather it be America than China or anybody else.
Yes, and for the last 4 years, those same leaders who got that real roasting today, including our Foreign Secretary David Lammy and our Defence Secretary John Healey, they're all sitting there. They got a real roasting. These are the people who for the last 4 years have kicked America around the room, got exactly what they want out of that old loser Joe Biden and his pathetically weak administration. From now on, I think it's going to be a pretty different ball game. Very quickly, before we go to break, Pete, I mean, obviously the leaders there were expecting, it's in Munich, J.D. Vance to deliver a speech about Ukraine. Of course, he sat around the table with Zelensky, and obviously Trump has spoken for 90 minutes to Putin. Now, you know, I understand what people say. Julia Hartley-Brewer, for example, I respect Julia's viewpoint on this. I don't agree with her, but I respect it. And I respect anyone who feels that we should not in any way appease Putin, that we must stand up to him. He must not get anything that he wants, you know, because to do so would only encourage more aggression, more invasions on his part. Well, yeah, I get that. I understand it. But, you know, in the real world, wars end with compromise. They always do. OK, the victor gets most of what they want, but there's always a compromise. Now, the thing about this war is, the way it is now, the Ukraine war, it's never going to end. No one is ever going to win, because the more Russia steps up its firepower, the more Britain, America, France, everybody will give Zelensky firepower. So it's a standoff, and in this standoff, literally millions of young men will die. Hundreds of thousands are dying every year in the most grotesque circumstances, in these grim places that most British people couldn't point to on a map. It's just, you know, year after blood-soaked year, this will carry on. So when all of so many politicians in this pompous debate in Westminster that they had yesterday rose up and said, "Oh, World War II, Hitler, you can't appease Putin, it must be stopped, we must go." Well, first of all, you know, think of the mothers and the fathers of all those young men who are dying there. What about that? And secondly, if we don't do some kind of a deal, if we don't knock heads together, and when I say we, I mean Donald Trump, if they don't get Putin and Zelensky to accept, all right, you're not getting everything you want. Here's a compromise deal. If Trump does not achieve that, this war goes on probably forever. And so the way I see it is, anything that brings this bloodshed to an end, you know, we should not be condemning that. I mean, don't forget, Pete, we haven't got a deal on the table. No. This is just a sort of statement of intent. 90-minute conversation so far with between Trump and Putin, and I don't believe for a second that Zelensky in any peace deal won't be involved. Oh, no. But what Zelensky is quite clearly accepting now, because Trump's told him, and so has J.D. Vance, look, you know, you are going to have to cede territory, and he's going to, and obviously Putin is going to be told, you're not going to be able to get as much territory as you want, and you go anywhere near any other countries and you're toast. So this is going to be the deal. And also, of course, the other element is, sorry, Volodymyr, but you ain't joining NATO. So a compromise deal to stop the bloodshed. I can't quite understand why all of our pompous MPs, or not all of them, but so many of them, are so foursquare against what Trump is trying to do.
So on principle, I think what you call the pompous MPs are 100% correct. We should not appease a fascist. We should not appease a tyrant, because even if we do, they will continue, and they're not going to stop. Even if you stop the bloodshed now, you're just delaying it. You're not stopping it. But we have to live in realpolitik. We have to live in the world that we have created, because unfortunately the West has had one foot in, one foot out, and as per usual, because of that, things have got 10 times worse. So I think Trump is right to stop the conflict, because yet again, the West failed to define what winning looked like to the public. You know, they didn't at any point say, this is what winning looks like. Is it Putin gone? Is it territory ceded, or whatever? And because of that, nobody feels like they're going to win. And because of that, they can't really sell it. And that's what a big part of this is. They've got to sell this deal to the world, really. And I do think, again, I'm in two minds about this, really, because I don't believe...
I get both sides of the argument.
I really do, because, yes, it is sad that people die.
I'm thinking of the people of Britain. And I know that the majority of people in Britain, they're going, hang on a second, we got this terrible cost of living crisis. We can hardly afford to keep a roof over our heads. And you're sending £13 billion to a country we can't point to on a map. You know, most Brits don't really care about Ukraine. I mean, you know, they sympathise. We all sympathise. Ukraine is the innocent victim here. But as you said, realpolitik, in the real world, some kind of deal. I think should be made. Or don't forget, all Trump is saying is, I'm going to try to force a deal.
Yeah.
We are nowhere near one yet.
Oh, absolutely not.
So let me know what you think, folks. And I asked you this the same question last night. Is Trump right to do this? Should we go for a peace deal, or should we just carry on? Because if we carry on forever. I don't think this will ever end. And I don't think that he's had such a bloody nose, old Putin. He ain't going into Moldova or anything like this. He's too old anyway. I think he'll just as long as we can allow him and Zelensky in some way to exit the talks with their head held high, with their self-respect intact, it will end peacefully, and I don't think Putin's got it in him for any more aggression. You know, don't forget, he thought he would take Ukraine in 2 weeks.
2 weeks,
All this, he'll go for Moldova next. Well, he hasn't got the money for a kickoff. Your thoughts, 03444 991 1000. When we come back, I think we'll quickly talk about liar Reeves, and I want to talk about this trans tribunal in Scotland as well, which I think is very interesting. So lots still to come. Stay where you are. This is Talk. We'll be back in a moment.
All of a sudden, when they said to America, please help, this war's going on a long time and we're scared of Putin, and Trump's like, okay, right, I'm getting in there. Don't do that. Don't talk to him. Don't offer him anything. Please give us money. Please give us weapons. And I just think, well, look, I'm not saying that, you know, whatever conversations Putin had with Trump, that I agree with all of it. We don't know what's been said. There could be some tactics at play here. All I'm saying is, you know, Europe should have woken up a long time ago.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're still reeling from the great J.D. Vance's astonishing speech in Munich. We've got a lot of calls about it, but by all means get on the blower or send me a message and let me know what you think about it. 03444991000. The riot act read to wokery. Let's hope it dies a horrible death. Now, very quickly, because we're going to have to race through a few other stories now, Pete. Let's talk about liar Reeves. I mean, this is getting serious. You know, you're a Westminster veteran. There's too much noise.
Too much noise. It's like a brass band following it around. Do you know, like those with a trumpet going? Yeah, that's literally what it is.
Yeah. But it's the BBC. Credit to them. They've taken a story we already kind of knew about, that she lied about her CV. But they've exposed that she lied more than we ever knew. She wasn't at the Bank of England. Well, we already knew that she lied. She said she was there for a decade. And then the bank turned around, or people at the bank said, well, it's 6 years actually. Well, now we know it's actually 5 years and 3 months. So even when she revised her lie, she lied again. And her communications people, her official PR said this was due to an administrative error. No, it wasn't. That is another lie. Stop lying, for God's sake. Now, even worse, in a way, is that, but by the way, a lot of people lie on their CVs. It's not the crime of the century, but it is if you're an elected politician. She was elected in her constituency on the back of her CV. She became Chancellor on the back of her CV. It's very important in her case, and she lied through her bloody teeth, and that's why she's in big trouble. And she seems to trying to brush it off, and so is Starmer, but it ain't going away. You know, so Alistair Campbell's 11-day
11 days real.
It's still there, and almost worse, or just as bad. Let's say it that way. When she was at HBOS, that's before she went to the Bank of England. That's where she said she was an economist, but actually she was in the complaints department. She was a manager, but she was not an economist. So she lied about that. And the BBC is alleging that she was actually forced to quit HBOS in an expenses scandal. This involved her and several other managers buying each other expensive gifts, such as she bought one of her colleagues some wine worth 55 quid, perfume, jewellery. All of this was signed off by each other, friendly colleagues. And a whistleblower went to HBOS and said, this is all wrong. Basically said they're signing each other off luxury goods to fund a lifestyle. Now, according to sources at the BBC, she was forced to quit. Get out of here. She insists she left on friendly terms, but add that to the CV lies, and she thinks she can brush this off, but I'm beginning to think this is getting serious.
Yeah, this is like one of those rocks down a hill that ends up being like the boulder that Indiana Jones is running away. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But the one thing that I find most interesting about this is timing, because this is all happening in the background of a ministerial reshuffle that is coming. Everybody in Westminster knows that there is one on the way. And I wonder if this is the context that Keir Starmer is going to use to get rid of her. Because he's not going to use the economic plan. He's not going to use the budget as a reason, because he can't politically do that. What he can do is say, this woman lied. That's what I think this story could actually be really about. It's about kind of getting rid of Reeves. And because she's made a rod for her own back, and she has very few political friends, this is just a catastrophe after the catastrophe.
There's that other little nuance that she's ruined the economy.
Oh, yeah, there's that. Yeah, but this is the thing.
The other thing we forgot, she's a really crap Chancellor of the Exchequer.
I mean, this is the always thing. I can't remember the last time anybody in the public sector was actually fired, but you know, for general incompetence. But this is what my Westminster brain kind of kicks in, and I think this is how people operate. But you are right. This woman, there is so much noise around her. She's lied too many times. Too many white lies have caught up with her, and
at least These are worse than white lies.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm going to say, if it's involving expenses, you have to remember she had her expenses frozen when she was a backbench MP, along with multiple others for basically spending too much money.
We're seeing a pattern emerging.
Yes,
here.
exactly. And once there's a pattern, it is very difficult to kind of argue your way out of it when you've already been caught lying once.
Yeah, and if you can just say, if you can ever say to a politician without fear of being sued or slapped down, you are a liar, then that politician is in trouble. And Rachel Reeves is a liar. It's as simple as that. Everybody knows. So I say she's in trouble. So you're right, there's this reshuffle coming. Keir Starmer thinks it will change the whole image of the government.
It's rearranging the deck chairs.
The public virtually don't notice reshuffles. They say that anti-Britain, British hater Lord Richard Hermer will go as well. The disastrous Attorney General who wants to give away the Chagos Islands. But anyway, give me a call. Let me know what you think about Liar Reeves. Rachel from Accounts. She's going to have to go, isn't she? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, I've got plenty of time now to discuss this really key trans tribunal that the whole world is watching. It's up there in Scotland. There's a bloke in a dress called Dr. Beth Upton. It's a man. He says he's a biological woman, but he's a bloke. And basically a nurse was suspended for saying, I don't want you, you're a man, I don't want you in the women's changing rooms. Beth Upton says he had a right to be there. The hospital backed Beth. The nurse was suspended. Sandy Peggy is her name. Sandy's taken the hospital or the local NHS trust to a tribunal, and it's a really, really interesting case. And the future really of the trans debate hangs on this little tribunal up in Fife in Scotland. The whole world is watching. If that bloke Beth Upton wins, then it's a victory for people who say trans women are women. And that will be a terrible victory, because trans women are not women, they're men. That is a scientific fact. So if it goes in this bloke Upton's favour, then we have enshrined a scientific lie, and that is really dangerous. So we'll be talking about that next. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Pete Barnes, political strategist, Tory fanatic.
Every week.
Let's not argue about the Tories.
No.
So actually,
I don't think there's anything this week, is there?
Actually, I could get you on Kemi Badenoch's dreadful performance at PMQs on Wednesday, but I'll let you off that. I'll leave that hanging in the air. She wasn't very good, to tell you the truth. But never mind. She's not the story this week. This is one of the stories of the week, one of the stories of the year, one of the stories of all time. Actually, this is it's a small tribunal with massive implications, and up in Scotland, in Fife to be precise. Back on Christmas Eve 2023, a nurse called Sandy Peggy objected in the women's changing rooms to Dr. Beth Upton being in there with her. Dr. Beth Upton is a trans woman, bloke in a dress, in other words, and Sandy said, I don't want you in here, and it turned into a big row, a big incident. Sandy was later hauled up before the hospital authorities, and guess what? Suspended.
Shock.
Suspended. They later let her back, but she was not allowed to be around Dr. Upton and all that. Now, Sandy Peggy, to her credit, in my view, has taken this all to a tribunal, and it all revolves around whether or not a man should be allowed into a woman's safe space, and whether or not a trans woman can say, I'm a woman. Dr. Upton, a medically qualified doctor, says I am a biological female, and that the term biological male and biological female is virtually medically meaningless. No, it's not. No, it's not. Dr. Upton, by all means, wear a dress, call yourself Beth, live your life, you live your best life, whatever you want to do, but don't tell me or Pete or Sandy Peggy to call you a biological woman, because you are not. And it's a disgrace that we're even being asked to consider this nonsense, but that is what's going on. The hospital is the Victoria Hospital in Kirkcaldy, and the very future, I think, of sanity in this debate rests on the result of this. If they find in favour of this bloke Upton, then I think we're in trouble. In a little while, I think we've got J.K. Rowling has tweeted on it. She's had a bit of a row with her old enemy India Willoughby, another bloke in a dress. Have we got the tweet? There it is. So that's, if you're watching, by the way, this is India Willoughby has tweeted. There's a picture of Beth on one side and Sandy on the other, and India Willoughby's tweet, it says, a picture paints 1,000 words, tell me which one is a bully and a bigot. Well, I will. It's Beth Upton, I think. J.K. Rowling has responded.
That's funny. I have to admit, it's funny.
Has responded to India. Roses are red, violets are blue, Upton's a man, and you're a bloke too.
Oh God!
But that is it. That's the crux of the argument. It's true.
Yes, you're so right. This little tribunal is going to give probably one of the most important decisions in this entire debate, if not of the next century. I cannot stress just how important this is, because like you said earlier, what this will do, if these find in favour of Upton, is they will now put into law a biological mistruth. A fact that everybody knows is not true, because that's why this trans debate is so important, because everyone always says, why are you only bothered, it's only like 2% of the population or whatever. The reason is you're asking me to lie and you're putting that in the law. That is what you're asking people to do, and it is really dangerous. Once you start that and you go down that path, it is impossible to turn back around, because you can just define as anything. We had that silly health minister say you can define as a llama. You know, that you cannot in one breath say, oh, a man can be a woman, and say, oh, well, you can't be a llama. You've opened the door to this nonsense. And for me, that's the main bit of what infuriates me. It's that society didn't cut this off quick enough. It allowed
It's wokery gone mad.
Because it's that whole, oh, well, it was just being nice. It's just being nice. Yeah. It wasn't being nice. It definitely has had consequences. And now we're in a situation where we might have scientific mistruths in our law. One of the most fundamental building blocks of male and female is about to be smashed if we're not careful. And that is when society and civilizations crumble. Yeah. You know, it might sound hyperbolic, but this is so important.
I mean, as I say, Beth Upton, trans women everywhere. Knock yourselves out. I really don't mind. I really have no feelings about it at all. You want to live your life like that? Great. Enjoy it. I'm all for it. But don't tell me I have to parrot a biological scientific lie. That you are actually a woman. That's what they demand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, now, that's what it's demanding.
By the way, I know some trans women who hate all that, who just say, what a lot of nonsense. They just want to live their lives.
Yeah, definitely.
But these extremists, they want to prove a point. They want us to be browbeaten into saying, you are a woman. Well, you're not. You're a bloke in a dress.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because it's interesting. When you ask older transgender people, they say, well, they fought really hard for the term transgender, let alone anything else. You know, and I do think, though, that this is really one of the big battles, the big ideological battles, because it's about objective reality and truth. Yeah. And if you chip away at truth, everything collapses.
And India Willoughby says, you know, there's a picture of Beth Upton and Sandy Peggy. You tell me which one's the bully. Well, I'll tell you which one I think is the bully. It's that bloke Upton who's demanding, who's bullying Sandy Peggy and other women into letting him share their female safe space. Yeah. And if the hospital goes along with that bloke Upton's demands, then that is a very sad day for sanity, to be honest with you.
Agreed. And what makes this worse is this is medical people. Yeah. This isn't just...
He's a doctor.
He's a doctor, and he says that biological gender and sex doesn't matter.
Meaningless.
Meaningless.
No, he says meaningless.
Meaningless. I mean, what on earth is he talking about?
Beth, or whatever your real name is, what is it, Bob or something? Have you heard of chromosomes?
Yeah.
Maybe, I know you're medically qualified, but maybe you want to look them up.
Yeah.
You know? Unbelievable. And that is this is what J.D. Vance is cutting to the heart of. No more of this crap. No more. Let's strike a blow for sanity. Let me know, folks, what you think about this case up in Scotland, because as Pete quite rightly says, it is very, very important. Sort of history almost hinges on the result of it. So certainly the history of Britain. So 0344 499 1000. Next up, we'll talk about hate preacher Mohammed Hoblos, who seems to be allowed into Britain but isn't allowed into 29 European countries because, for example, he says that if you're a paedophile rapist who rapes a baby every day, but you pray, you are better in the eyes of Allah than a blameless person who doesn't do anything wrong but doesn't pray. He also says that we must never condemn his beloved mates in Hamas. This guy, as of now, is coming into the country. He's going to do a 5-city tour of Britain starting next Wednesday. We're waiting for some kind of a decision. So far, it looks like he's coming this way. I wonder why that is. We'll talk about that after the break, but if you have any thoughts on Mohammed Hoblos, he's born in Lebanon, lives in Australia, and frankly, I think should probably stay there. But what do you think? 0344 499 1000. That next, stay tuned.
I'm completely with JD Vance in what he said. And of course, we're aware of the non-crime hate incident law/non-law, which was used in order to take Alison Pearson to task. And when you read about NCHIs, they're also used to shut down children at school. Police have gone to schools and tackled students as young as 9 years old for what they've been saying to their fellow students at school. I mean, that's absolutely absurd.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, look, we've been covering this story. In fact, it's a political asylum exclusive. We broke this story on Wednesday. Everybody's all over it now. Various other inferior TV channels, the Daily Telegraph, the Daily Mail have all covered this story. We broke it right here. It's a ranting hate preacher called Mohammed Hoblos. He's been banned from 29 European countries. He was wanting to do in the last couple of weeks gigs, shows in Holland, the Netherlands, and Berlin in Germany. At the last moment, they managed to stop him entering those two countries. He's tried to sneak in, actually, into Europe via Oslo, then Switzerland. Stopped. No, he's not allowed in. In 29 European countries, he's banned. He's got a tour starting in Britain next Wednesday. It's allegedly preparation for Ramadan. It's called Together as One. It's Hoblos, Mohammed Hoblos, an Australian resident who was born in, if you're watching on TV, there's the poster. He was born in Lebanon, lives in Australia. And as of now, he's still coming. We haven't banned him. I put in a call to the Home Office on Wednesday. They said we will email you with our decision. Well, we're still waiting. Now, so far, it looks as if he's coming. All of these venues, these 5 venues, he'll be, if this goes ahead, he'll be watched by about 8,000 people. They're all paying like 10 quid a ticket. He's going to do very nicely out of it. He's actually, he's got a PhD in computer sciences, but he's found a way to make more money, which is to spew claptrap to Islamic followers. He's an Islamic extremist. That's why he's been banned. He preaches violence, to be honest with you. I'm an absolutist when it comes to free speech, but any sensible person has to draw the line at speech that incites violence. And in fact, I'm torn when it comes to speech that incites hatred, because I don't like the hate speech laws. I think you should be able to hate people if you like, but the kind of hatred he spews, I think, leads to violence. So I think I'm against this guy coming, and I know most of you are. Just to remind you, we're going to play now one of his lovely bits of oratory in which he outlines his belief that Allah prefers pedo-rapists who pray to decent, blameless people who don't pray. Take it away, Mohammed Hoblos.
Adultery, zina. What about the one who rapes a child? What about the one who drinks alcohol? What about the one who does the biggest of the kabair, good or bad? This person, one person that commits all of these sins, he commits all of these sins on a daily basis, but he prays, is better in the eyes of Allah than the one that doesn't commit any of these sins but doesn't pray.
He also tells his followers in his inimitable style there, as I said the other day, speak up, Mohammed, I can't quite hear you there, you know, yelling his head off that they must never condemn Hamas. You must never condemn Hamas. Actually, if you don't condemn Hamas in this country, it's probably against the law. So there's a problem there. They're a proscribed terrorist organisation. So this is the claptrap that he spews, the bile that he spews as of now, still coming to this country. Your thoughts?
I'm really torn on this one, actually, because I look at what J.D. Vance has just said, that, you know, there was a man silently praying, and that was an arrestable offence, yet this man is allowed to come talk about two-tier society. It's right there to be seen. However, I do think that every now and then the general public has to be shown what is actually out there and what is actually being said by these people. You know, we talk about it in very vague, like, general terms, but actually to see that, I think, is a very powerful thing, to say that, look, this is what's coming to our shores, this is what we are not dealing with, and this is the hate that we are voluntarily letting in. And I do think that the public needs to be shown that, because I go back to the moment when Nick Griffin was on Question Time and everybody lost their minds over it, but him being in the spotlight, put under pressure, collapsed his support. I do think that we need to get better at defending our values, not just banning people that challenge it.
Yeah, I remember I read a column about Nick Griffin. I was about the only one on Fleet Street who said he must be allowed to go on.
Yeah.
It's you know, just because you don't like his opinions doesn't mean to say he shouldn't have the right to express them. Freedom of expression. You know, it comes with all sorts of nasty implications. You know, do you remember the Larry Flint case in America? Purveyor. Larry Flint was a purveyor of the most disgusting porn. I mean, really misogynistic porn. You know, he was banned. His magazines were, and he went to, I think they imprisoned him, and he went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court of America said, you know, this is an issue of freedom of expression. You might not like his magazines, but it is not for the government, it is not for the nation to ban him publishing them. And so there is that aspect here, but I do believe that Hoblos, the European nations, have said, look, he does spread hate, he preaches violence, that's the key issue.
Yes.
So, you know, countries like Germany and France, they do not easily ban Muslims. They really don't.
Yeah, it's very
and
true.
here's what worries me about this, the fact that he's still coming.
And also, why does UK always end up being the home for these people?
Yeah, but it's this. This is what worries me. I think Keir Starmer would ban this guy in a heartbeat if he could do it quietly.
Yeah.
But now he can't do it quietly. It's got to be noisy because we've made this a big story starting here. And if he does it noisily, if he bans him noisily, he's worried it might offend the Muslim community. And Keir Starmer needs the Muslim vote. Your thoughts on that, folks? 03444991000. Well, listen, we've got lots of calls coming in, so we'll be talking to you fairly soon. I've got lots of messages as well. Now, after the break, though, we're going to take a deep dive into our migrant crisis, which quietly is spiralling. Nobody's talking about it right now, so we will. That next, stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of tonight's Political Asylum. In an hour's time, at around about 9 o'clock, it's my show, What Just Happened. So that hits the airwaves at 9. I'll take you through to 10 o'clock. Couldn't recommend it highly enough. Magnificent presenter, me. And a cast of thousands. No, lots of fun, lots of serious debate, some funny ads. It's quite a good show, I think. I hope. So gets quite 300,000 viewers. America, Australia. Get a lot of viewers in Latvia. We're trying to work that one out. And also we get a lot of viewers in Australia as well. So join the crowd. Watch it. I hope you like it. That's in an hour's time. We'll play you a little clip of that later on. Also tonight, in about half an hour, we'll be taking your calls. I've got lots lined up. A lot of stuff about J.D. Vance. Got someone here saying, who's rung in saying, why does Kev think it's okay to burn religious books? I don't think it's okay to burn religious books. I don't think it's very nice at all. I just don't think it should be against the law. You got that, Pradeep? Why do you find that difficult? You know, I think it's sacrilegious, it's offensive, but you're allowed to be offensive in this country, right, Pete?
Yeah, 100%.
You know about that, don't you?
Oh, my God, yeah. I mean, like, how I haven't been cancelled yet, I don't know. But, no, this is...
You think you got problems?
I know, yeah.
No, but we'll come back to that anyway. But I'll read some of your messages as well. But in the meantime, we thought quietly what people have known, lots of huge stories, you know, even today, this week. So, you know, quietly, people don't quite notice that the migrant crisis continues apace. For example, you know, nobody quite noticed 164 more came over this week. On Wednesday alone, 99. And so far this year, under Labour, of course, no deterrence, they're going to come over, aren't they? 1,653 illegals have crossed the channel since January the 1st, putting Labour on course to sail into the record books and preside over the worst ever year for small boats. So we are on probably this year, in my view, probably 60, 70,000 maybe. And that's because in a juvenile, impetuous way, our ridiculous Prime Minister threw our only deterrent into the waste paper bin the first day. That's the Rwanda scheme. A lot of people say, oh, it didn't work. Well, it didn't start, did it? And now we've got no deterrents at all, and still they come, and still they come. So we need to talk about this. We need to talk about what the government is doing to stop this. And of course, the answer to that question is the square root of sod all. It's doing nothing, and that's why they keep coming. We don't have deterrents, we have enticements, we have encouragements for them to come. And also we need to talk about these insane left-wing tribunal judges who are allowing, you know, rapists, criminals. This week, a jailbird who did 2 years in our jails, he was allowed to stay because if he was deported back to Albania, his 10-year-old son doesn't like the taste of foreign chicken nuggets. You will have heard that. You know, I mean, I hardly know what to say. We need to talk about these lunatics, these morons who are dressed up as tribunal judges. Something needs to be done about them, otherwise we're in big trouble. To help us sort of stage this deep dive into the migrant crisis, a warm welcome to migration expert and political commentator. He used to be part of Migration Watch, a very fine organisation, but he still knows his onions. Welcome to the show, Dr. Mike Jones. Hello, Mike.
Great to be here, Kev. Good to talk to you.
You too. Well, first of all, let's just talk about. I'm with Pete Barnes as well, so we'll make this a threesome in the cleanest possible sense of that phrase. Let's talk about the actual the actuality of these people coming across the channel. As I said, Mike, quietly, nobody noticed, 164 more this week, 1,653 illegals crossing the channel since January the 1st. And we're on course for the biggest number of boats crossing the channel ever this year. Now, the government's only alleged deterrent is the establishment, or was the establishment on July the 5th, of something called the Border Security Command. They hired a guy called Martin Hewitt, I think his name is, a former copper. Took them months to find anyone who'd take the job on. 200 grand a year. They then gave the Border Security Command £175 million worth of high-tech, state-of-the-art equipment to catch the bad guys, because the entire government strategy to solve the migrant crisis is to smash the people smuggling gangs. Now, 200 grand a year, boss, 175 million pounds worth of equipment. Well, you know the answer to my next question. How many people smuggling gangs has the Border Security Command smashed so far? Oh, I know, it's none. But even if they had smashed any, Mike, I don't think it would make a penny's worth of difference, because smashing the gangs won't solve the migrant crisis. What you have to do is stop the migrants. If you smash every gang out there right now, tomorrow there will be new ones. Supply and demand. You've got to stop the demand. The demand comes from the migrants, right? And this government has no plans whatsoever to stop the migrants. This is a disaster, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, the Border Security Command will make a difference to the margins, but it's not going to solve the problem. I mean, there was something very similar to the Border Security Command under the previous Tory government. It was called, I believe, the Clandestine Channel Threat Command, the CCTC, established by Priti Patel.
That's a snappy name, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
yeah, snappy indeed.
Yeah, if you're forming, if you want an acronym, if you're forming an organisation, don't use the word clandestine. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
Well, you know, it pretty much did what the what Keir Starmer's unit is going to do in the latter months. You know, it provided a joined-up approach. You know, to use that buzzword, brought various government departments together. You know, MI5. GCHQ, you know, the border forces, various departments together, you know, tried to solve this. You know, there's real-time intelligence, you know, information was going back and forth between the departments and the cabinet itself. Did it make much of a difference? I'm sure there were a few cases where it did, but did it solve the problem? No, it didn't. I mean, admittedly, the counter-argument to this is Starmer's Central Border Command has more money. It's got more teeth in terms of legislation, and that's correct.
But it's worth saying, Mike, isn't it? You know, this, in effect, the Border Security Command was formed on July the 5th. Took them a long time to find someone to take on the job, even though they were offering 200 grand a year. September, I think it was, before they hired this guy. And here we are now, the following February. They haven't smashed a single gang, so it's hardly time to break open the champagne, is it?
Well, no, because it's a transnational phenomenon. The boat parts are produced and sourced in Turkey and China. They're transported to, you know, countries like Belgium and Germany and Bulgaria, and then obviously they're transported down to Calais. So, you know, you've got multiple countries there, multiple jurisdictions. You know, it's quite an amorphous thing, and unless you've got boots on the ground in those countries, and, you know, unless those countries give you the powers to actually, you know, tackle these gangs directly, then these sorts of policies aren't really going to work.
I mean, I'm right, aren't I, Mike? That you know, this government studiously avoids the way to solve this crisis. The way to solve this crisis is to somehow devise a method of stopping the migrants, stopping them even going to Calais, to the northern French coast, because they know they're not going to get here. You know, the Australian system, whereby the Australians said, well, if you come to our country in an illegal vessel, many of them, of course, turn up without documents. That's against the law as well. You have broken our laws. Therefore, you negate your right to asylum right there and then. I mean, we don't seem to have the resolve to do that. If we don't do that, I mean, you know, it's all very well to talk about, oh, turn the boats around in the middle of the channel. Well, you know, I'm sort of in favour of that, but I can see the problems. You are actually dealing with human lives when you do that. So, but surely if we just said, instead of giving you 45 quid a week, a 4-star hotel, free food, free doctors, free dentists and free lawyers to fight your case to stay. And by the way, once you get here, pretty much you can stay forever. Certainly take 10 years to get rid of you. Instead of saying all of that, if we said once you get here, you've broken our laws, you're out, they'd stop coming, wouldn't they?
Correct. 2 words. Detain, deport.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I like that.
That's the solution. Basically, to solve this, it would run in stages. Okay, so stage 1 is you've got to get rid of the Human Rights Act.
Yeah, the European Court of our membership of the European Convention on Human Rights, and therefore our subordination to the European Court of Human Rights, which of course, well, we're going to talk about this after the break, which is being used time and time again by these lunatic tribunal judges who I think basically have declared war on what they see as a repressive racist regime of Britain. But yeah, we need to leave the ECHR because the ECHR will stop us detaining and deporting. But my feeling, Mike, let me know what you think, get Pete's thoughts on this as well, is that I think in essence we have a government, we have a Prime Minister and a Home Secretary who don't really want to stop these migrants.
No, they don't. What Labour is trying to do is this. They want a statistical victory. So what Labour wants to do is to get the illegal immigrants out of hotels so they can say to the British public, listen, our plan has worked. But what they're actually doing is they're fast-tracking asylum applications through the system, and they're outsourcing the cost to the welfare state and local authorities. The second thing Labour wants to do is not just have a statistical victory, but an optical victory. So we smash the gangs. Of course, it's not going to work. But if one of these kingpins is arrested and is put on trial, and that could very well happen, Keir Starmer has his press conference. Yeah. He could go there with his lackeys and say, listen, smashing the gangs is working. Yeah. You call this person, put him on trial. So what they're trying to do is to manipulate the media cycle and manage.
Exactly. It's headline hunting, isn't it? But their approach to this is performative. We saw it this week, whereby Starmer and Calamity Cooper obviously spotted that Donald Trump had made a big show of, look at this plane full of deportees that we're sending back to South America, look very good. So old Starmer and Cooper go, oh, we'll have some of that to show how tough we are. So they show a picture of us, Britain, loading these migrants onto a plane. Look, we're look tough on the migrants. And it transpired this was a plane that could get 280 people on board. There were 47 migrants on it. Each one of them cost us £22,000. This was a flight back to Albania. You can get to Albania for 200 quid. So £22,000. We also had on that plane a load of medical assistance because that's legally required apparently. And also, amazingly, 150 security guards. That flight cost the British taxpayer to get rid of 47 Albanians £1 million. It's performative. It's for the papers. It's for the telly. That is their approach to this crisis, isn't it? Just to try and somehow or other get some good publicity.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's a continuation of what Rishi Sunak did. The BBC.
Yeah, nobody's exonerating the Tories. I mean, even Pete Barnes is a passionate Tory, but even he will not exonerate previous Tory governments.
But it was the same with the BBC Stockholm. I mean, what was its capacity? It was like 500 people. That wasn't going to make a dent into the illegal migration crisis, but the Tories made a huge song and dance of it. The media played along. You had all of these lefties opposing it. And obviously the media sided with the Conservatives, which is, sort of understandable emotionally.
Yes. Yeah.
But you're seeing the same with this. I mean, Labour is picking some of the low-hanging fruits. They are increasing deportations in certain areas, but, it's very easy targets, sort of Vietnamese nail bars and...
Yeah, but that's exactly right. Let's get Pete. What do you think, Pete?
Oh, well, I completely agree that this is all performative, and I've said that from day one, but I think Mike's bang on when he says that what is actually happening is the kind of increase in speed to which they are just rubber stamping people to stay. And we said this during the general election, that will be their plan. They will play a statistics game because it's what the Labour Party always do. Because I do think
the way to reduce your 120,000 asylum seekers is to stop them being asylum seekers and to turn them into successful asylum seekers.
Or you change the language entirely and you make them these irregular migrants or something like that. So you stop the word illegal in it. So you say, well, we've got rid of it.
Now, so
you change the language and you change the thing. But on the issue of Martin Hewitt, the kind of the gold commander, he was fourth in line. He was fourth choice. I know. And in the first press conference, he got up there and said, the government's plan will not work.
Yeah, how about that, mate?
That was just staggering to me.
But he actually said exactly what I said. He said, you won't solve the migrant crisis by smashing the gangs. As I say this till I'm blue in the face, but it is blatantly obvious. You smash every single people smuggling gang that exists right now, and tomorrow there will be new people smuggling gangs. So again, all performative.
One thing I will say, just really quickly, is you could get rid of the European Convention on Human Rights, but what you've got to change is the culture of asylum in this country. We have a tendency to keep saying yes when we should have an automatic no, and then as the default. So that's the big thing. If we look at the civil service, we look at charities, we look at the lawyers and all that kind of stuff, it is all geared to granting asylum. And we have to change track. Getting rid of these laws might help, get the train rolling, but you've got to get it further down the line to really get to grips with this issue. Otherwise, it's just window dressing.
Exactly right. Well, look, we're going to go to break now. Stick around, Mike, and also you'll be interested to know you could win 25,000 quid. I'm interested to know, but actually I don't think I'm allowed to enter, but you are. Here is your chance to, as a talk customer, as a talk viewer, listener, here's your chance to win a million quid. Who wants to be a millionaire? Well, you can't be a millionaire, but you can be a 25,000 quid heir. Check this out.
It's competition time, and we're giving you a chance to win a whopping £25,000. So what do you need to do to get involved? All you have to do is text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post. It's as simple as that. Once again, to get involved, just text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post.
18 plus, UK excluding NI. Enter by SMS for £2 plus one standard network charge by 11 p.m. on March the 3rd, 2025. Or send your name, email and contact number to £25,000 cash competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on March the 6th, 2025. This is a News Broadcasting Network promotion. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Welcome back. Now, let's talk about these tribunals, shall we? I'm still with Mike Jones. Oh, actually, no, exactly right. Why did it come back to me? Right, we have to go to break, then we'll rejoin Mike Jones.
socialism is great until you run out of other people's money.
Yeah.
Said by Margaret Thatcher, which is absolutely bang on. So yeah, I actually think it's quite funny that the social warriors of what's right and wrong this time last year are now getting caught out by their own rules. I mean, not even very tight rules. I mean, some of the stuff that you think, oh, yikes. I mean, I could just imagine that if this was the Conservatives, and especially if it was Reform, it would be way, 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 way worse.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're still with migration expert Mike Jones, and of course Pete Barnes is still in the studio. Mike, let's quickly talk about these moronic left-wing immigration judges, and that's what they are. They're idiots. And they keep making these decisions, these frankly grotesque decisions about why people can stay. Time and time and time again, they allow jailed paedophiles to come out of foreign people who come to our country and rape children, to come out of jail. They let them stay because of their right to a family life, because they're married and they have their own children. Frankly, they're a danger to their own children, let alone other people's. So these judges make this decision which endangers British children here. That's absolutely disgusting the way they do this, and it's always, well, our hands are tied. It's the European Convention on Human Rights, and it's I think it's Article 8 or Article 8, that the right to a family life. Well, their hands are not tied. This is a question of interpretation. They always interpret it in favour of the paedophile, because I think a lot of these judges, they're basically left-wingers who see themselves fighting an oppressive racist regime here in Britain. Now, let's just run through some of the decisions that we've covered, like in the last 2 weeks, even in this week. The famous Albanian crook who went to jail for 2 years because he had 250 grand in cash that he couldn't account for. No doubt the real reason, he probably was selling drugs, no doubt, but it was proceeds of crime. He went to jail. He came out, was earmarked for deportation, allowed to stay because his 10-year-old son doesn't like the taste of foreign chicken nuggets. A Nigerian woman allowed to stay after 8 appeals. She kept getting deported. She kept appealing. 8 appeals. I mean, we should put a cap on this. You can't keep appealing. And on the 8th attempt, she wisely joined a terrorist group, a Biafran separatist group, which is banned in Nigeria but not in Britain. So she goes to the court and says, well, I'm part of this Biafran separatist group, and if I go back to Nigeria, I'll be persecuted because I'm a member of this group. Allowed to stay because she joined a terrorist group. Let's not forget also the Caribbean woman from Grenada. Hey, Pete, do you know this? Maybe you know this, mate. Is it Grenada or is it Grenada?
I say Grenada.
What do you say, Mike?
It's Grenada.
Grenada. Okay, right, Grenada. Look at us. Grenada. Let's call the whole thing off. No, Grenada. Right, she's from Grenada. She's married a Latvian to try and stay here, basically. That didn't work, so she gets deported. Or she's told she's being deported. She goes back to the court, she appeals and says, so her deportation is postponed, delayed. She's still in the country because she said, well, if you deport me, A, my Latvian husband doesn't like Caribbean food, and B, he really doesn't like the temperatures. It's too hot there. Oh, all right, then you can stay. And on this madness goes. And of course, we had that notorious decision this week by a judge called, you won't be surprised to hear, Hugo Norton Taylor. Posh but thick. He ruled in favour of a Palestinian guy who wanted to join his family. And in effect, this ruling meant this guy wanted to come to Britain, and he used a specific legislation that allows for Ukrainian refugees to escape the war. So the Palestinian was allowed to come to Britain because legally this judge decided he was a Ukrainian. Well, he wasn't. But what this decision meant was that effectively now, thanks to this decision, all 2 million Palestinians, if they fancy settling in Britain, can settle in Britain. And what a shock. Hugo Norton Taylor's dad is 80-year-old Guardian journalist Richard Norton Taylor, a lifelong, tireless anti-Israel, pro-Palestine campaigner. So Hugo grew up in a household that clearly shaped his thoughts. Something has to be done about these crazy tribunal judges, doesn't it, Mike?
Yeah, they're crazy decisions, they're outrageous decisions, but they're built into the system. It's not a bug, it's a feature. And this is ultimately downstream of the Human Rights Act. Now, there are two separate discussions here. The first is about the cultural aspects of the legal profession and system, and those that occupy it. And yes, I think people on the right of the political spectrum have a point when they say a lot of these are left-wing activists. I think that's pretty difficult to deny at this point. And you've given some great examples. But at the end of the day, how do you control for that? How do you wipe that out? It's almost impossible unless you want to move to a sort of Russian model of democracy. I mean, what you've got to do
Anything's got to be worth a try to get rid of Hugo Norton Taylor. I mean, the thing is, you're right. I mean, we've got a problem here. This is the way these people are. The British establishment used to be right-wing. The British establishment now is a Guardian-reading, liberal North London elites. That's our new establishment. Hugo Norton Taylor is clearly part of that ilk. But when they all say, well, you know, you're criticising me, but my hands are tied because of the ECHR. They're not. This is a question of interpretation, and they always interpret the law against Britain because they don't like Britain. A bit like the Attorney General, Lord Richard Hermer. They're Britain haters. You're right, Mike, we've got a problem, but something should be done about these people, shouldn't it? Somehow we have to stop this.
Well, yeah, something should be done, but don't give them the tools to be political activists.
Yeah.
So the key word here is tools, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. bunch of tools, yeah.
There's another Keir Starmer and his toolmaker dad.
That is correct in and of itself, but looking at the bigger picture, don't give them the legal tools to be political activists. So, you know, this is all downstream of the Human Rights Act.
Leave the ECHR. It is quite important, isn't it, Pete?
Yeah, but this is what I go back to the point about changing the culture. There are lots of other nations that are signed up to the ECHR that don't have this problem. And so I think this kind of getting rid of the ECHR is a really important bit, but it's not the be-all and end-all of this problem. And too many people keep spouting off saying that we get rid of this and we fix the problem. No, you don't. There's a whole overarching system that we have to change.
You're right. It's a good point. Well, what I love about the ECHR, the European countries, France, Germany, they routinely just ignore it. So I don't know why we don't. By the way, J.D. Vance was speaking on these issues in Munich today in that remarkable speech he made. Here he is. Take it away, Mr. Vance.
Thinking about the terrible victims who had a beautiful winter day in Munich ruined, our thoughts and prayers are with them and will remain with them. But why did this happen in the first place? It's a terrible story, but it's one we've heard way too many times in Europe and unfortunately too many times in the United States as well. An asylum seeker, often a young man in his mid-20s, already known to police, rams a car into a crowd and shatters a community. How many times must we suffer these appalling setbacks before we change course and take our shared civilization in a new direction? No voter on this continent went to the ballot box to open the floodgates to millions of unvetted immigrants. But
he's right, isn't he, Mike?
Yeah, he is.
No, he's not.
Well, they went to they
there
did
are
vote.
people who genuinely believe in open borders. There are people who genuinely believe that they're doing the right thing here. So, but this is what annoys me: is that we get
not that many.
Well, there are a significant number of open border supporters.
What are you saying that Labour campaigned on that?
I think the Labour Party.
Labour didn't campaign on
open
the
Green
borders.
Party did. But no, so this
is
the
Green Party.
Yeah, but a lot of people
forget
still.
them.
No, I genuinely wouldn't.
They're totally irrelevant.
They're not really because
bunch of nutters.
Because they'll start gaining more popularity as the Labour Party start to crack down on this stuff, because people will become disillusioned with the Labour Party and move across them.
We're talking about, you said that people voted for open borders. No, they didn't.
Well, some people did.
Well, yeah, what, about 12?
For 12, it doesn't matter how many it was. It was the fact that this was the one bit of the speech that didn't make any sense to me, because he went down an avenue that was unnecessary. That's the bit that I just...
Well,
it stuck in my craw, this one.
I thought it was just a fantastic speech from start to finish. I just want to finish, Mike, on a couple more brilliant examples of the way our legal system works and why our migrant crisis is spiralling and will continue to get worse and worse and worse, because migrants, illegal migrants, once they get here, basically know they will never have to leave. Now, last couple of weeks I've reported on both of these stories. One, a Ghanaian rapist who raped a woman at his place in Watford. He got a 6-year jail term. When he came out, he was earmarked for deportation, as he should have been. But we detained him in a deportation centre. Now, apparently, technically, legally, that's kind of wrong. He should have gone to a jail. Now, because we put him into a deportation centre, he sued the government and was awarded a 6-figure compensation sum and allowed to stay. He's a rapist, 6 years. And another case, this happened this week, a Pakistani woman who broke the law here by outstaying her visa, was awarded £98,000 compensation, again by one of these idiot judges, because she said, you owe me money, you owe me compensation because you treated me like a criminal. She broke the law. Now, what do you call people who break the law? I know, criminals. We gave her £98,000 because we treated her like a criminal. She is a criminal. This insanity's got to stop, hasn't it, Mike?
Yeah, well, the system is topsy-turvy. I mean, there's been much talk about culture here, but culture is often downstream of the legal system and the incentives that creates. You mentioned Article 8, Kevin, the right to private family life. That is a huge roadblock in the illegal migration system. Number one is Article 3, the principle of non-refoulement. So if somebody is coming here from Syria or, Pakistan or whatever, a case can be made that it's too dangerous to send them back, and we can't send them back. And the thing you've got to remember is this has not just created legal roadblocks in the system, but it's changed the entire structure of the legal system. The legal system now attracts a lot of very left-leaning people who want to make money. And if you're a lawyer, you make lots of money. Yeah. They can pursue their own political beliefs and their own political activism within their profession
while making a lot of money. I'll tell you what, mate, it's been good talking to you, but, I was hoping we might kind of make some kind of a breakthrough, but we are trapped in a swirling mass of madness, and with Keir Starmer and the gang in charge, I can't see us getting out of it. But well, look, come on again soon, and we'll see if we can unpick this mess once more. I'll bet you we fail again, but very interesting to talk to you, Mike. Thank you very much. Mike Jones there, migration expert. We better go to break now. When we come back, I'll play you a little clip of my show, What Just Happened. We'll take a couple of phone calls and, you know, chew the fat, that kind of thing. 20 minutes to go and then my show. So stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, look, before we go to the phones, I'll read a couple of messages. Here is a clip from my show that starts in 20 minutes. What Just Happened? It goes from 9 o'clock until 10, and then tomorrow morning it hits YouTube around about 9:30, 9 o'clock, something like that, or maybe even earlier. Just check YouTube, and then it's available all the way through the week, so you can watch it, cherry pick when you want to watch it any old time. But it will be available, well, it'll be showing on YouTube and here. You can listen to it on the radio if you like, if you don't want to watch it on the telly, but you'll want to look at this, won't you? I mean, come on! Well, you probably won't, actually. So if you watch it on the if you listen to it on the radio, it's very television friendly. So it's radio friendly and television friendly. So if you don't see the pictures, it'll be fine. You'll still get it. Right, here's a clip. It is a binary issue, isn't it? You are either male or female, and you can't change that.
Well, the dangerous thing is when we have people like Ashley, second in charge to the NHS and other health services, we get things like, you know, asking men if they're pregnant before they get x-rayed. It's just those are the real life consequences of putting someone in power who's got this weird, messed up, woke, loony mindset. And it is, you know, it's not funny, Simon.
Yeah, but
you might be laughing because you're a male.
She says trans women are women. They're not. There you go. So that starts Simon London there, and my brilliant producer Samara Gill, who I'm looking at right now. She works very hard. She is. I make her go onto my show. Otherwise, I'll fire her. Anyway, well, look, let's go to the phone, shall we? Let's talk to Caroline. Hello, Caroline. You're in London, aren't you?
I am. Lovely to speak to you again.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, adore your show, I have to say. Well, I've got a couple of points. Firstly, the J.D. Vance speech today, I think, apart from Martin Luther King and a few others, was probably one of the greatest speeches.
I agree with you. I totally agree.
It blew my mind, and it also brought me to tears.
Me too.
Brought me to tears because look at where we are here. So
I thought, Caroline, and I think Pete Barnes agrees with me. It was a speech. I mean, I hesitate to say the world, but it was a speech for the Western world, a wake-up call that wokery is killing us. It's killing freedom of speech, and a magnificent moment, I thought.
No, absolutely. I hope some people take note of this. A couple of things. No one from our Parliament of any party are speaking out about any of these issues. They're just quiet.
Yeah.
Tories are quiet. Forget Labour. Even Reform, apart from Rupert Lowe, who I think is absolutely brilliant, I have to say.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know, where are our human rights? The British taxpayers, where do we come in? We don't have any rights
That's
anymore.
exactly it. That's what I was talking about just now, Caroline, that these tribunals, which routinely allow paedophiles who've been to jail, these are people who've raped children, go to jail, and they happen to be married and they've got their own kids. They come out after doing 5 years, 3 years, whatever. They should be immediately deported, but because of their right to a family life under the European Convention on Human Rights, they're allowed to stay. In other words, prioritising their right to a family life over the safety of our children. It's unbelievable.
It's actually insanity. I feel like I've woken up and I'm living in a mental asylum. I really do. And I've got friends of mine sometimes say, "Oh, you're so negative," but I don't know how.
You think you've got problems?
I just don't know anything. And as for this hate preacher coming in from Australia, I mean, I don't even know what to say.
The only thing I'll say about that, Caroline, is I am hanging on an email from the Home Office. They promised they're going to send me one.
Oh, you'll be old and grey by then, Kevin.
Well, I have been waiting since Wednesday afternoon, and no sign of anything yet. It is still possible that they'll ban him next week at some point. I'm sure they won't work over the weekend. But if they don't ban him by Wednesday, roll up. His sellout tour of 5 cities starts on Wednesday. I mean, it's just ridiculous. 29 even the Europeans have banned him, but not us. With such a soft touch for all of this. Caroline, great call. I've got to move on because I've got other calls waiting, but always good to talk to you. You ring me anytime. Caroline in London. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to Susan, a new caller who wants to talk about Russia and Ukraine.
it does betray, though, is just a lack of intelligence. You know, you said to me, am I in big WhatsApp groups? I get added to them, and the first thing I do is silence them and stick them in archive, or just sort of after a while just go exit. I never contribute to them because I know better than that, because I've got a brain. It doesn't really betray a whole lot of nous or intelligence from people who want to serve in politics.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Here are we'll go to Susan in just a minute, but we've got a lot of WhatsApp voice note calls. This is Ian, Susan, and Rob, all on JD Vance's remarkable speech in Munich today.
How refreshing to hear someone like J.D. Vance give a speech which actually echoes what most probably 90% of the population across Europe think. You know what, we could do with leaders like that rather than the woke load of nonsense that we have right now. I mean, we've got a bunch of liars, hypocrites, sleaze merchants sitting in the cabinet on number 10 particularly. God, if only we could have someone who goes through, like Musk is going through, all the corrupt officials in the US, exposing how someone who was on 100 grand a year suddenly got tens of millions of pounds in his bank account. You know what? We need someone like that to sort all this nonsense out.
Wow, Kev. Wow, wow, wow. J.D. Vance, he is my hero. I could snog the fella stupid, but yet what a fantastic speech he's given. I hope the Starmer Brigade are absolutely recoiling with horror. Go, J.D., go.
Yeah, listen, about Vance's speech in Europe there, it sounds good, it's all good, but like they're standing there listening to him saying, hang on a minute, your boss has got more NDAs coming out of his ears than anyone else, so like we're not listening to you, you know? So that's just the way it is.
I think they are listening to him, but I really liked Ian and Susan, and thank you, Rob, for your alternative view. Let's quickly go to Susan, a new caller. We love new callers. You're up in Yorkshire, Susan. You want to talk about Russia and Ukraine? What would you like to say?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, yeah.
Yeah. Right, I just feel that if NATO hadn't have encroached all these other countries to join NATO, Russia would have kept out of this war.
What you mean? What do you mean by that? I mean, how many? How many? I mean, I believe, is it Finland or Sweden has joined in the? But how many nations joined NATO ahead of the Ukraine war? I don't think any particular nations joined.
No,
Russia has the view that NATO was amassing its forces further eastward and felt threatened. But you know, that was just Russia's view.
I don't think so. I think everything's dodgy. Same as our government is dodgy. Same as Tony Blair.
So you think that Putin invading Ukraine was NATO's fault?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think you're right, actually, Susan. But
I think that's just categorically incorrect.
It's not.
Sadly,
it's
I think
right.
that's just wrong.
It's a popular conspiracy theory on social media, but it's nonsense. I mean, you're right, Susan. Putin is very against the expansion of NATO. He's threatened by NATO. Good. But we did not. NATO did not sign up any more countries ahead of the invasion of Ukraine.
In if anything, his invasion led to an increase in members. It's rather the opposite.
Well, it has, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's the point. But I would remind people that the Russian government did targeted assassinations on British soil. In what way are they threatened? We talk about how Britain is laughed at on the international stage. The way that we talk about this, the war and how it started and who's to blame, makes us look ridiculous. We have to stand up to a fascist. We have to stand up to tyrants, and Putin is one. He is he is commanding of one of the biggest nuclear arsenals in the world. In what way is he threatened? Is he powerless to stop any of it? It is ridiculous to argue that he has done this as a direct consequence of NATO. I'm sorry, it just makes no sense whatsoever.
If you want to know why he invaded Ukraine, it's because he was losing a lot of popularity in Russia, and the time-honoured tactic of Russia, or Russian leaders, whenever they're in trouble, is to become aggressive on the foreign field of play, and that's what that was all about. I'm guessing, Susan, though, that you'll probably agree with me that I would like to see a peace deal done to stop this awful conflict. Is that what you feel?
Absolutely, because there's too many people getting killed.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree with that.
It is not a stop. It is a pause. I'm sorry. For me, it's not stopping this, and it won't stop this.
Well, what do you mean?
Because it's a pause. Because there will be something else. He'll go somewhere else. Because the thing you have to remember is even when you get rid. No, it's not. No. It's genuinely not.
Susan, you and me are on the same side here. Pete Barnes is just spewing Westminster claptrap.
No,
Susan, good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Call me again. Quickly, let's talk to. It's Westminster claptrap.
It's really not.
No, it's not. It's a cliche. Where's he going to go next?
It's not about him. It's who comes after him. Because look at the foreign minister.
Well, you mean
look at the defense
China
minister.
will invade Taiwan?
No. There's definitely that possibility. But let's look at who replaces Putin. You've got more dangerous people behind Putin that are more aggressive and more expansive. This is not just Putin.
On the back of that, we just let millions of young men die.
Well, unfortunately,
absolute nonsense.
So did we give a time frame for Winston Churchill? No, we didn't. Did we?
We didn't give him a billions more pounds of our money to that country.
Because unfortunately,
do you?
Yes, I do.
Do you?
Because
well,
they are on the front lines. They're on the front
don't.
lines. As Israel is defending us against radicalism, Ukraine is defending us against Russian expansion.
Ian in Lincolnshire. Hi, Ian. You've just entered a massive row. Let's talk about JD Vance. It was great, wasn't it?
I don't want to interrupt you. You seem to be
For God's sake, interrupt us. He's talking rubbish, so come on.
I sat and watched part of the speech this afternoon, and it was very palatable from the reaction of the audience that the adrenaline in the audience was smelling very strongly.
I'll tell you one thing, though, Ian, that Pete and I both did observe. You could have heard a pin drop while he stunned the audience with this speech. They were expecting some old garbage about Ukraine, but he rather changed the goalpost, to say the least. But what I was surprised about was at the end of that speech, he got a pretty enthusiastic round of applause.
Yes, because the crowd suddenly realised that he was talking sense, and they weren't the only ones who were thinking that he was talking sense.
Yeah.
And it went round like a ripple. And suddenly, I'm not the only one in the room that thinks that all the stuff that's going on is absolute claptrap.
Yeah, it's nonsense. Yeah, go on.
On the Ukraine side of things, you're talking about tyrants and stuff. Am I correct in thinking that Mr. Zelensky has cancelled the elections and is cancelling his opposition and stuff?
Yeah, I think he has,
Yeah. Well, I thought he was trying to run a democracy.
Yeah, well, do you know what?
We're in the middle of a war.
Do you know what, Ian? I don't care what he does in Ukraine. And frankly, I'm sick of being told I have to care about Ukraine.
Oh, we do have to care about Ukraine. We do. Because
here's the thing, Pete. I don't. All right, so don't tell me I have to care. All right, you Westminster people.
It's nothing to do with Westminster.
Shut up! Don't tell me what I have to think.
Of the modern conflict.
Let's go to Liverpool. Talk to a guy with a great name. Hey, Kevin.
Now then, Kevin, how are we?
All right, man. What would you like to say? Trump and Russia.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I'm really upset about, really, is that, OK, all this went on in Gaza and all these, people being abducted and etc., etc. What about all these children nobody's mentioned these children and all these people.
Well, that's why I'd like to see. I mean, you know, you can talk about the children, you can talk about the women, you can talk about all the horrors that are going on. I mean, it is absolutely horrific what's going on there, and that's why I think Trump and Vance should be encouraged in their bid to forge some sort of peace so that this madness, this horror ends.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But I mean, the fact that they're actually talking about doing this behind Ukraine's back and them not being involved in it.
Well, they're not. Who's talking about that? Who's talking about that?
Well, I'm just hearing that myself.
Well, no, they're not talking about it. You know, this is what the lefties have said. Oh, you know, they're going to cut Zelensky out. I don't think they are. Zelensky's going to have to eat some humble pie. So is Putin. And who knows? You know, we're going, oh, it's a peace deal. No, it's not. It's just a proposal for peace talks. So we've got a long way to go. Listen, Kevin, I've got to go because the show's nearly over. But call me again. Good to talk. Kevin in Liverpool there. Just quickly, we've got a couple of WhatsApps.